Serbs and Albanians are not, and I repeat, are not destined to be enemies. There was a misinterpretation of the meaning of the word Metohija.
Just a second about Kosovo and Metohija. Banjska was not an incident. Banjska was an act of open aggression of Serbia, of the state of Serbia, against a neighboring country, against the Republic of Kosovo.
The almost universal agreement of the members of this council in these polarized times of the difficult position of the Serbian community in Kosovo. I think this sends a strong and powerful message to both Mr. Kurti, Mr. Sveclja, and those in position of power that their human rights violations and transgressions are not going unnoticed, and that they should, without delay, change their ways. I will briefly comment on some of the derogatory words that were said against the country I represent, my country, and the President of Serbia, Mr. Aleksandar Vučić, who was accused here of warmongering. President Vučić not only did not make any such statement at any time, but has consistently called for economic cooperation through initiatives such as the Open Balkans, through which Serbia, Albania, and North Macedonia created a single labor market, but unfortunately Kurti's government refused any such initiative and continued its repression. I also want to briefly touch upon the usage and the preposterous accusation against Serbia of the usage of the word genocide in the context of my country. The term genocide, honorable members of the Security Council, should not be misused, especially not for political and sensationalist purposes. This kind of rhetoric in general, blanket assessments and claims without any evidence or due process are frivolous, not founded in reality, and serve only to score cheap political points. Such irresponsible claims also undermine possibility for progress in the normalization of relations between Serbs and Albanians, Belgrade and Pristina. Finally, if we are talking about the ethnic composition of the population in Kosovo and Metohija then and now, we should also clearly present the facts and say that in Kosovo and Metohija today there are 90% and more of Albanians, and that Serbs have suffered in the previous decades, being victims of crimes and being forcefully expelled from their centuries-old ancestral homes and forced to leave their homes in such significant numbers. And to illustrate this, we remind you of more than 200,000 internally displaced persons who reside in the Republic of Serbia in our jurisdictions without opportunity and conditions to return to their homes. Instead of calling out Serbia on bogus charges, I believe that the authorities in Pristina should allow humanitarian workers like Mr. Milorad Arlov and others who are being prevented from even entering the territory of Kosovo and Metohija to perform their work. I also want to say that speaking about international law, most of the members of the United Nations support Serbia's territorial integrity and sovereignty on the entire territory, as we have been recognized by the United Nations. In fact, in the past decade, 27 countries have revoked recognition of the Unilateral Declaration of Independence, and only 3 new countries have recognized the so-called independence. We are not interested in having this type of competition or this type of political quarrel and a political fight, but we will always stand very firmly for our position, for the resolution 1244, for our constitution, and for international public law. Finally, there was a misinterpretation of the meaning of the word Metohija. Kosovo and Metohija, as we say, has deep historic meaning for the Serbian people. I have nothing but respect for the Albanian people, their tradition, their culture. In Serbian tradition, in Serbian culture, the meaning of the word Metohija, or Metohos, as its Greek origin says, is monastery or church property. And indeed, as early as documents from 11th, 12th, and 13th century clearly record the use of the word Metohija for church property in the western part of Kosovo and Metohija. This is not insulting or derogatory in any way, nor it can by any means be linked or attributed to Slobodan Milošević or any other Serbian former or current politician. It's a part of our identity, part of our culture, equally as Albanians call this region 𝐑𝐞𝐬𝐿 and have their own names for other parts of Kosovo. Finally, and I'm finishing with this, I want to end on a positive note. Serbs and Albanians are not, and I repeat, are not destined to be enemies. Regardless how difficult dialogue is the only option. Dialogue will lead to trust, and dialogue will lead to a better future, one in which we may really see the economy of the region being at the forefront of European growth, which unfortunately is not the case at the moment. I thank you.
Great deny war crimes, they deny genocide, they celebrate war criminals as heroes, and they do this in presence of people who are old enough to know exactly about what happened in the 90s, not only in my country. Just a second about Kosovo and Metohija, and yes, it is an expression of hegemonic aspirations. Why? Because nobody in Kosovo, when we speak about our northern neighbor, do use provinces names like Šumadija and Vojvodina, for example, or Belgrade and Šumadija, but we call it by the name of Serbia, as internationally everybody here does. So when you hear somebody talking about Kosovo and Metohija, believe me, you have in front of you fans and supporters of the old ideology of Slobodan Milošević. But I will not comment very long because it would take a whole day to dismantle this kind of propaganda and lies. I want to stress that once again that Bańska was not an incident. Bańska was an act of open aggression of Serbia, of the state of Serbia, against a neighboring country, against the Republic of Kosovo. Impunity followed. The attack on our critical infrastructure in November last year was not an incident. It was a kinetic attack of Serbia against a neighboring country, against the Republic of Kosovo. Everybody here and outside of this building knows exactly who stays behind this all. We have seen it all in the video footages from Bańska, but no consequences. Yes, we have bought drones, but not from a neighboring country. We did it from a NATO member, Turkey. And we are purchasing weapons from our NATO allies, NATO partners, and to be very honest, we are not neutral. We do not pretend to be neutral because we stay side by side with our partners, with our allies, and we do that in a very transparent and very clear way. Yes, NATO members, they train, they advise our security forces, our army. We purchase weapons from them, and we purchase weapons that are very much needed to protect our country and our citizens, and we do not make out a secret of that. But where we do not buy weapons, like our northern neighbor is doing is buying weapons from Russia, from China, from Iran, and other countries like that. Health institutions are not being closed in the north, ladies and gentlemen. In opposite, a serious dialogue with our citizens in these northern municipalities who belong to the Serbian minority is ongoing about how healthcare and education and infrastructure have to look in Kosovo. Because it's all about them. It's about what they need. It's about how they want to live their lives as citizens of Kosovo. We do not want and we do not need ghettos for our Serbian citizens. We need integration, protection, and support for them. And as a responsible government, we are taking serious actions in securing that. That's why we are building bridges. That's why we are building roads, schools, hospitals, and not walls for our minorities. No one, not any Kosovar institution, and no international authorities or organizations do confirm largest parts of the UNMIK report. What Marko Gjuriq said here doesn't surprise me at all. And for those who were following in the late 80s of the last century what happened in Yugoslavia, they will be reminded that exactly this way, with this language, Milosevic prepared the 4 wars he waged in the 90s against Slovenia, against Croatia, against Bosnia, and against Kosovo. Let me repeat my invitation to this distinguished body, the UN Security Council, to visit Kosovo, to talk to citizens of Kosovo in the northern, southern, western, eastern part of our country. I invite you to come and to talk to whom you want. And I invite you to become witness of the incredible story and progress Kosovo has made, with the indispensable help and support of friends, partners, and allies. Visit Kosovo, talk to everybody you like, make up your mind, and become witness of the incredible success story of international engagement. Thank you.